welcome, Minister, and thank you for this opportunity. Minister, I very much support this bill and everything that it contains. It is time that Ireland, we're no longer laggards, that we are leaders when it comes to climate action and comes to the decisions that we make at a macro level and at a micro level. The strategy in the bill brings together all the key players in the country and obliges all of them to take action, placing obligations on them with regard to their plans and with regard to their targets, particularly with the local authorities, and I really value that engagement. Certainly from my own experience from South Dublin County Council, is that they would embrace the obligations. They are already moved ahead in so many, many ways, in a way that I'm very proud to have been a member of that council. So I think that this bill coming into law will further accelerate their plans. I also really welcome the opportunity for new enterprises, for a new economy, and I think that came home to me very much in the pre-legislative scrutiny of the Marine Planning and Development Bill, that in that we had so many people come in and talk to us about the future economy, the future pillars and industry that is going to be there, that arises out of our sensitivity to carbon action, or climate action and carbon neutrality at the very least. So I suppose it gave me great confidence in what is future, and I also admire that we have so many innovation coming through Minister Simon Harris's department with regard to education. One of the concerns that I would have is that in our secondary schools now, are we equipping our young people for the courses that they're going to apply for at third level, the courses that are going to be available, and are we equipping them with that skills in circumstances where we still have quite gendered subjects along schools? You know, if you want to do mechanical drawing, well, you're probably more likely to need to go to a boys' school than a girls' school, and if you want to do home economics, well, then the same, the vice versa. So I suppose I think that we need, and though albeit it's not your department, but we need that conversation and the implications of this bill to transfer across into education and into a review of what is happening in secondary schools in particular, in ensuring that they now have the skills and that all genders have the skills in moving towards ensuring that they have their part to play and that they're ready for the new industries that are going to emerge in the future. And I'm very encouraged in that regard. I think that also we have a problem with regard to communication and with regard to understanding. My humble view of how matters when you talk about climate action. I mean, actually, we're all out in Dublin Bay South at the moment, and I am struck at times by the difference, depending on what demographic of our society we're in. I am struck by the relevance to them of climate action, because if you are on a minimum wage, if you are on a lower base, this is something that's out there, and you might put things into your proper bin, and you will take whatever action you can, but you don't have the luxury, and there is a perception of elitism around this. So I think that we need an information campaign that reaches everybody where they're at. Not that this is an elite group who are leading the charge on climate action, but that actually that across all stratas of society, all levels of education, all backgrounds, because otherwise you end up it being a fear and it an othering, and that there is an elite or an elite group within here imposing change on communities that really all it does is it brings resistance, when in actual fact are respectful meeting people where they're at and eliciting their views, their fears, and respecting that. I think that that's very necessary. And I suppose that brings me on to things like we talk about just transition and have great plans in the very obvious industries that are going to change and those that they've been spoken about by my colleagues. But there are areas like taxi drivers where in the here and now we need to be sure and confident that we're supporting them. We've come through the COVID period where taxi drivers have had their income, their way of living fall out, yet we've still issued taxi licences while we're supporting the existing taxi drivers on PUP. we are not extending those whose cars hit the 10-year period in 2022. We haven't issued an extension to them in recognition of the fact that they're not going to get finance to replace their cars in 2022. So I think we need to make a step, and I know that you have put out a really good package recently, but I don't think it addresses the real needs of some of them who have come through the crisis and have been on the breadline, you know, receiving the PUP, and are now facing at that perhaps where 2022 now they have to change their cars. Where are they going to get it? Who's going to give them finance? Any tentative discussions they've had. So while we're moving towards changing the fleet and wanting an electric fleet I think we could make that give them an extension and make it conditional then on the type of cars that they change to, and as a consequence bring them with us rather than be perceived to be imposing and othering the conversation. And I think that that's a really important sensitivity that we need to have. Thank you very much.